Chris, can you throw up the tweet about Will Anderson?
Yeah.
This piqued my interest just because it correlates a little bit with recent news relating to the Detroit Lions.
Give me a second here.
You're good.
He was not on their top 30 visit.
So the Detroit Lions haven't had a top 30 visit with Tyree Wilson.
I don't even see him on this list at all, visit-wise.
That's what I'm saying. And I haven't seen anything rumored for them to visit him. I haven't seen anything rumored for him to come, here and visit Detroit. I don't know if he's at a pro day yet. I could be wrong on that one. But from my understanding, Detroit Lions have only drafted guys they've actually sat down and had conversations with. And that's how it feels when they talk about these players anyway. They want to draft guys with high football character. I don't think you're going to be able to know if a guy has it or not unless you actually sit down and have conversations with them.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, again, something piqued my interest this morning regarding Will Anderson and the Texans. The Texans love Will Anderson Jr. and aren't sold on the top QBs after Bryce Young, per NFL Draft Scout. Now, I don't know who the hell I don't know who NFL Draft Scout is, but I've heard this myself too. And this is something, again, with the Tyree Wilson, I can't correlate too much to make sense about it. With this, I actually kind of can. I know that they're in need of a quarterback, but they just hired a former defensive coordinator as their head coach. You have another opportunity next year to get a Drake May or Caleb Williams.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest with you,
I would do that.
Yeah.
If I'm the Texans, I'm not in love with whoever's there. It's said that they don't really value any other quarterbacks highly outside of Bryce Young.
Yeah.
So if Bryce Young isn't there and you're the Texans, you don't got to rush this. Even if you bring in a CJ Stroud or whoever, I think they'll be a decent team next year. But I'd rather have Caleb Williams than somebody I don't trust. If I'm the Texans, personally, I'd take CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
Because I think he'll be a great player, and I think they can make some noise in that division if they do.
It's an excellent consolation prize if Bryce Young.
If they're not in love with him, Caleb Williams is a pretty shiny toy that'll be at the top of the draft next year.
Right? And I'm glad you used that name, too. It was real quick before I move on to Zakwa in the Woodward Sports Chat says, wrong, easy, J-Mo wasn't a top 30 visit last year. That's actually incorrect. If you remember, it maybe not been a top 30 visit. Nah, I actually think it was. Remember the Defend the Den episode that came out?
Mm-hmm.
And they spoke, Jameson Williams was in there. And then they spoke to Aiden Hutchinson. That was what that was. That was a top 30 visit. But moving on, though, I'm glad you brought up C.J. Stroud because that's a person, speaking of top 30 visits, the Lions did schedule to speak to.
Yes.
In connection to, for me, to this Texan news about them liking Will Anderson. Because if the Lions are going to, they confirmed, only 6 teams called up to move to 3. One of them was the Detroit Lions.
The Lions were one of them.
And it just happens to fall in the same week. They scheduled a visit with C.J. Stroud.
Mm-hmm.
And later news breaks that the Texans aren't necessarily interested in these quarterbacks outside of Bryce Young. Meaning, maybe that call to 3 was for C.J. Stroud. We mentioned this earlier in the week, but now it just starts to correlate even a little bit more with this Will Anderson who's breaking out of the Texans. And to be honest with you, Spinny, we already had that make sense too with the fact that his pro comp a lot of times has been Jared Goff.
Yes.
And if you're going to have somebody, if Ben Johnson's leaving, I'd rather have like a guy that with Jared Goff's skill set to learn under Goff with this offense.
I can move a little bit too.
Exactly. I hated the comp with Jared Goff, by the way. But I think arguably this is the most accurate quarterback in this class. I think arguably this is the quarterback with the least questions about him. Yes, Bryce Young can ball. But Bryce Young, there's obviously questions. Yeah, there's questions with the size. There's question with the weight. And I'm talking about size, just height. Like literally how he's built as a human. And how is that going to survive? And now a new 17-game season versus a 16-game season. I would be 100% in bed with the idea of the Detroit Lions trade up to 3 for C.J. Stroud.
I don't hate it. We've talked about it a lot that we don't want to pay Jared Goff $45+ million, which is by the end of this contract, which is not next year, but the year after that, is what he's going to go for, especially if he continues to have the success he did last year, which we all hope he does. We hope Jared Goff can continue the success that he had last season, but it's going to come at a very steep price. You look at what Daniel Jones got paid $40 million. I think Jared Goff's a better quarterback than Daniel Jones. I would say all of you in the Woodward Sports Chat do as well. So I don't hate it. I don't love it, but again, I can't question Brad Holmes. If he goes up there and does it, I'll believe in it.
This is the stuff, the information. Does it kind of correlate a little bit? I mean, like, come on. Would you be mad, JB? I know you were big anti CJ Stroud candidate earlier on in the year, but as we know through the draft process, things change.
Yeah.
How you feeling about that? Am I crazy, by the way, too?
No, you're not crazy. I mean, C.J. Stroud, Will Anderson. Honestly, if you're the Lions, this could be your last potential chance to grab that top tier quarterback because the next few years in the future, you're not going to be picking in that top 10.
Mm-hmm.
So this is your chance and your opportunity to get a QB of the future that you can mold and build to whoever you want, especially if Ben Johnson is back there helping him develop to be that quarterback that we want for the future. Because we know Jared Goff's days here are soon to be numbered. So if you have the opportunity to grab him, go ahead.
Yeah. And another thing, too, is like, when you, us personally, and I know everybody listening too, anybody's taking a part of those simulated mock drafts, and you land there at 6, and you're like, damn, Will Anderson's gone. No brainer, dummy. He obviously is going to be gone. Damn, Jalen Carter's gone. No brainer, dummy. If a team isn't afraid of his, whatever issues regarding around him isn't afraid of him, they're going to take him. And you're sitting there at 6, and a lot of these scenarios, you're like, fuck. If like Easy and Spinny weren't bullying us for trading back, it'd make a lot of sense to trade back here.
Yes.
Because I can still get a piece I need or like, later on in this first round.
It does look pretty ugly at 6 sometimes in those mock drafts.
Right?
Yeah.
And Brad's probably thinking the same thing, and draft scenarios in his head too is like, I could actually get Joey Porter later on in this first round. I could actually get Christian Gonzalez later on in this first round. Miles Murphy later on in this first round. Drew Sanders maybe even the second round. It's not you're not missing out on much, in my opinion. You're not missing out on much if you take that 6th pick, package it maybe with another one of your seconds, and move up 3 spots. Because just as we've seen the Bears trade, just to go back to 9, and again, my opinion, I thought that was like not a lot at all.
Yeah.
I felt like they kind of got swindled in that situation. Obviously, still, the Panthers gave up a lot to get there, but I feel like the Bears could have got a lot more based off the last trade I seen with the San Francisco 49ers moving up to 3 for Trey Lance. Moving up, 3 spots from 6 to 3. I really don't know if it takes that much in this year's draft class.
I don't think it would take that much at all. I think you could do it for one of those second rounders and then another pick, whether that be a future second or a future third or something like that. And you can move up those 3 spots. Again, we don't know. You could say it's a smoke screen, blah, blah, blah. Brad Holmes, he sat down with him. He was a top 30 visit, so they have some thoughts on it. They called the Arizona Cardinals to see what it would take. So they have some thoughts on it. So it's not just out of the blue, why are they talking about trading up? They're not going to trade up. They have shown us signs that they are willing to do it if the price is right. They are willing to do it if the opportunity presents itself. And I agree with you that if you're trading up in this draft, I don't think you'd trade up to 3 to get Will Anderson. I think if you're trading up in this draft, regardless of who you are as a team, it's to get a quarterback.
Yeah.
Not just for the Lions' sake, but for any team. If you're trading up in that top 4, it's because you want one of those top 3 quarterbacks that are going to go. So we'll see what's going on. Again, I don't think it's going to happen. I would be extremely surprised if the Lions moved up to 3 and got C.J. Stroud on draft night. That would be wild. But I wouldn't be mad about it, and I would believe in it because I believe in Brad Holmes. And whatever decision he makes is going to be the right decision.
If you're assistant general manager, Spinny Morgan Raxter, and it happens draft night, it goes Bryce Young, Will Anderson 2, world's taken by surprise.
Yeah.
Are you, if Brad's like Spinny, I'm thinking about making the move for Stroud right now.
I told him to pull the trigger.
Pull the trigger. I'm pulling the trigger.
Because what JB said, it's if everything goes like we hope, the Lions are not going to be in the situation to get a top 10 pick in the oncoming years.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're in that situation now, when you have 2 first-round picks, when you have 2 second-round picks, you're afforded the luxury to do that.
Yeah.
And if you're in love with the guy, if that's your guy, go do it. If you're just doing it to do it, no. But if you actually love him, if you believe that he can be a star in this league, you trust your guns, you go up there and you make it happen.
That's what I'm saying, dog. What's the grade on that pick, boys? In the chat, what do you think of Woodward Sports chat? What's the grade on that one?
It'd be an A.
A, yeah.
It would be an A.
I think it'd be A too.
Yeah.
Again, because put yourself in scenarios you've already been in. When you're at 6 and all those money makers are gone.
Again, I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I would be extremely surprised if it happened, but there is potential for it with multiple reports that we've seen of the Detroit Lions bringing in C.J. Stroud as a top 30 visit. Of them calling Arizona to see how much it would take to go up to 3, and now the Arizona Cardinals not valuing a quarterback other than Bryce Young and loving Will Anderson.
Now, I've been wrong on player evals. I've been wrong on game predictions. But a lot of times, the stuff that I do hit on, and I'm not even like talking shit. I'm like saying like the reason why is Just the same way I just connected the dots.
Can connect the dots.
In the context right there. The same way okay, that would make sense. They got that, did that, and they grabbed Jalen Duren. Boom, it happened. Same thing with Jamal Williams. I feel like he's going to outprice himself out of the market. This shit should have happened by now. Boom, happened. David Montgomery's out there. I don't know for how much more. You might as well go and get him. Boom, it happened.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you connect the dots and shit just starts making sense. Man.
Also,
same thing with the Jeff Okudah trade too.
Something to add to that, Easy, is what we just saw the other day. Not letting Jeff Okudah walk for nothing. And we talked about this before with Jared Goff. The ideal scenario would be to get a quarterback this year, because then you could trade Goff after one season. You could bench Stroud for a year, or whoever you get with that selection, and then trade Goff for another asset instead of letting him walk away for nothing.
1,000%. And that's clearly a philosophy of Brad Holmes. You saw it done. You mentioned Jeff Okudah, but don't forget he did the same thing with T.J. Hockenson early on this year too. Brad Holmes run away. You ain't leaving here without him getting something.
Yeah.
He getting something about your ass.
Like the Scholastic Book Fair.
Just saying.
Leaving here without getting something.